In this first breakout session of Track 1, please welcome Qualys' Abhishek Singh, VP Product Management, alongside Niharika Pothrani, the Senior Manager in Security Testing and Vulnerability Management at McAfee, to discuss best practices and strategies you can implement to secure your container environments.
Welcome back, guys. I hope you guys had a good lunch. And hopefully I won't get you back to sleep. You'll feel more energized after my session. My name is Abhishek Singh. I'm the Vice President Product Management for Kubernetes and Container Security at Qualys. If anything, this QSC has been all about risk. And we'll talk about how to manage containerized workloads, the risk from containerized workloads, in a more effective way. We'll talk about why that is a very critical part of the conversation today, the unique challenges containers pose to our risk management, how the industry has responded with solutions, and finally, what Qualys has to offer along those lines. We'll have McAfee on stage to talk about how they've extended our platform to customize for their unique workflows and use cases. And finally, we'll end with some demos of our new and exciting features. At Qualys, we firmly believe that our vulnerability management people are best suited to be the risk managers of tomorrow. So if risk management is what you do, it's shifting. Containers are just a different form factor of how apps are getting built and delivered today. And all your apps are migrating towards containers. And if risk management is what you look for, you'll be missing out on a big part of it if containers is in your blind spot. Containers are fun to work with, very agile. They represent a lot of good things, but they come with their own unique challenges. It's nicely summed up in this acronym called DIE, which stands for Distributed, Immutable, and Ephemeral. Containers are distributed in nature. What that means is your big, fat, monolithic apps are getting split out into microservices. And when you do that, every internal interaction within the app has become network exposed, which means your attack surface is vastly increased, and so also your vulnerabilities. So again, if you're a vulnerability manager, it's way more volume here than what you've been dealing with traditionally. Immutable because containers are built into an image, and that's immutable. It doesn't change. If you patch a running container and it goes down, a new copy will come up with the old vulnerability. So vulnerabilities are also persisted in the container. So the way you deal with patching and remediation is very different. Again, I'm talking about how they're different from the traditional VMDR style of vulnerability management. Ephemeral means that if you take any snapshot-style risk view of containers, it's instantly rendered incomplete and invalid because they're changing all the time. They're very dynamic. So you cannot use a traditional snapshot-based approach for doing container security. Again, containers are great. They have a lot of good attributes. That's the future of how the enterprise is moving their apps. But they come with their own unique challenges. We look at how the industry has responded by shifting left. If you have not heard the term, people have made container security very easy with a new paradigm. And it's a three-step process. Step one, scan for vulnerabilities. In a shift-left manner, you go and scan your containers for vulnerabilities, for secrets, for malware, before they hit production. Then you remediate what you found. Once you find your vulnerabilities, you remediate it. And the third step, you enforce compliance. You make sure that no container is entering your runtime with any vulnerability, malware, or secrets. Simple, right? Not quite. This is what the DevOps movement and the shift-left guys promised you, but there's a lot more to container security than what that simple methodology presented. We all know you cannot eliminate risk. Again, if you have attended this conference, that's a theme of our presentation. You cannot eliminate risk. You have to manage them, which means you are letting risk enter your runtime production environment, and you have to learn to improve your posture over time. You can no longer be a department of no, saying that this is how we do containers. You cannot ship vulnerable containers into runtime. It will happen. You have to be prepared for it. No elimination, management of risk. The next stuff is runtime monitoring. So I met with Chris. He's from Honeywell, and he's right here. And Chris was saying his developers are using a different tooling, and they have shifted left. But they're not monitoring a runtime for what happens. That's theory. This is ground reality. This is where rubber meets the road. So you might have containers that were running from Docker Hub, and you might be scanning ECR in Amazon. You'll be missing the point if you didn't scan at runtime. The shift-left movement completely missed it. As vulnerability managers, you are firmly responsible for risk in enterprise, and scanning at runtime is very important. Crypto miners, you never scan for them, but they're running. How will you detect them if you don't scan for them? So containers had to be continuously and periodically scanned at runtime. And that's where the industry has understood that. Finally, even the things you scanned in a shift-left manner, they drift in terms of packages and the vulnerabilities. When you scanned them, there was no vulnerability. But at runtime, you start seeing those vulnerabilities. So the first 4 pillars are kind of your risk management philosophy for containers. Again, nothing Qualys about it. This is how the industry has agreed container security shall be dealt with. But then, you still have to assume some risk will be there in your environment, things that you're not able to patch. Zero-day stuff. How do you manage them? So holistically, your threat management can also be risk-informed. For example, you might have a high-risk asset container for which there is no patch available. Your threat management can be risk-informed, and you can very closely monitor those assets for which you have no patches. And that's a very different style of threat management, risk-informed threat management. So our threat management strategy can be risk-informed and can compensate for what we have not been able to eliminate in our risk management phases. Qualys offers container security as part of their total cloud package. It's a list of modules that you can leverage. It might sound daunting, but if the only thing you use is container security, that's what you pay for. You pay for what you use, and you have access to this whole suite of packages from Qualys. Even though we talked about left and right, Qualys is a full-stack vendor. We cover your entire DevOps process and phases through build, through release, and runtime. At build time, we have something called a CI/CD sensor, which can scan images in build. You can fail stuff in your build if they are found to be risky. And you can shift further left, use our command line tool to have developers scan images. So we cover your entire pipeline from left to right with our offerings. There's a second scanner, which we call registry scanner. This will allow you to scan your registries. So again, we are completely shift left. We can do CI/CD scanning, registry scanning with Qualys today. At runtime, we have a bunch of things to scan containers that are running. What you scan shift left may not be real, so you get to scan the real things at runtime. Very novel. Most vendors, they do shift left, they forget about the runtime scanning. Beyond that, we can do threat management with our runtime sensors, and we can do threat detection and so on. And I'll demo some of it in our subsequent part of the presentation. We are not new. We have been operational since 2018, and we have some of the largest banks that you have credit cards from using Qualys at scale. We have 1,000+ customers, and again, this is a very battle-tested, scalable solution from Qualys. So now I'll try to map down the industry approach of how Qualys solutions map to the same 5 pillars of container security. Like I said, we do the shift-left scanning in registry and CI/CD, but our malware scanning is very distinctive. No other vendor has the kind of malware scanning that we do. So we had this deep learning product that can, without signatures, in a proactive manner. Again, before we talk about proactive, what is reactive threat management? Someone discovers a threat. They're reacting to threat behavior. Someone is profiling threat behavior, writing signatures for it, pushing it to you, and then you get to scan your containers, right? This reactive signature-based scanning. Our CDR product is zero-day capable. Without signatures, it can scan for novel malware that no one has written signatures for. But what we do is we shift that whole capability left. You can scan for malware in registry so that even before they enter your production, zero-day capable. If you have supply chain attacks, what are they doing? They're implanting malware, malicious stuff into your images. We can scan for them in registry before they're running with our scanners. Very novel about what Qualys does. There is no other vendor that offers that kind of solution. In terms of remediation, again, this is your familiar VMDR QID-based approach. We don't report vulnerabilities. We report missing patches, very actionable. Our reporting is very remediation ready. And the same applies for containers. It has details on what to patch, how to patch. And I'm very happy to announce that in October, we are publishing our ServiceNow integration, the CVR app, into ServiceNow Marketplace. We have Maulik here, right there. So we have people from ServiceNow here. And this is a capability a lot of our customers are asking. They like this workflows in ServiceNow. They like the vulnerability scanning in Qualys. And what we can do here is automate your remediation. When you scan with Qualys, it automatically creates ticket in ServiceNow. Next scan happens, you fix them, it closes the ticket. So all that automation of ticket management comes with this integration of the Severe module that we have published this month in October. In terms of risk management, you cannot have binary gates. You can't say that if it is a vulnerable image, it cannot enter my production. It has to be more risk aware. Again, Qualys, because of QID and QDS, our detections are threat informed. So if I say, as a policy, you cannot have QDS more than 90 enter production, that's a very explainable, acceptable policy for DevOps and shift left. So you can have more risk-aware policies to say anything higher than 90 QDS cannot run in my environment. Very acceptable, very operationalizable. You can shift it further left. You can say any risky containers that are getting built can never be pushed into my registry. So you can not only do admission control at runtime, but even at the CI/CD phase, and you can fail builds and never have those risky images even get into your registry. We'll talk about true risk and insights later in the demo part, so I'll skip that for now. In terms of runtime drift, like I said, we are scanning containers at runtime, the ground reality, not what is in the registry, what developers did, but what is actionable, actually running. We actually have a feature called in-use images. So if you look at all the images in registry, it's too much. If you focus on what is actually running, it reduces the focus from 200 to 20. And that creates the goodness of having that runtime marriage of vulnerability management. And finally, in terms of managing the residual risk, Qualys is proactive. We are not reacting to threat behavior. We're not chasing threats. A reactive thing means that you're always behind the attacker. You'll never catch up. With Qualys, you can be proactive about threat management, not vulnerability management, threat management. What that concretely means, again, is we can have runtime ability to detect zero-day threats without signatures. That's an existing capability Qualys has always had. It's CDR, our acquisition from Blue Hexagon. But we are making that integration with containers. So now you can say, we not only found a malware, but this is the container it runs on. So that integration is something we're working on, and it's in engineering and QA pods. We can do a demo. It's coming to you in the next release. Similarly, our threat management is very proactive in the sense that we are not chasing attacker behavior. We are looking at what your apps are doing, who is talking to whom. And when an app tries to connect to some nation state, we'll flag that. Very risk-informed monitoring. So you can risk-informed manage your apps for least privileges. Any new privilege that gets exercised at runtime, we'll pick it up. And all this is powered by a technology called eBPF. So Qualys has always had runtime security for containers. We were using instrumentation that was intrusive. People didn't like it. We are migrating the whole runtime story to eBPF. People don't think twice before running TCP dump on a production server. They will not run GDP because it hurts your performance. TCP dump, there's no issues. And that same technology that powers TCP dump is called Berkeley packet filters. We are making it available for the whole runtime tracking, the file access, the network access, the process forking. It's all tracked using eBPF in a very high-performance way. It's a nice middle ground between agent and agentless, and that's what powers our runtime security. And runtime security is already released as part of 134. It's rolling out as we speak. It has a lot of other capabilities like FIM, which we'll demo. So Qualys has a very comprehensive left-to-right strategy for securing the risk coming out of a containerized workloads. But it's always this last-mile problem. Customers are forced to have their own workflows, tweak it a little bit, customize it. And that is where QFlow comes to rescue. So QFlow is our technology to kind of extend the platform. Think of it as running Lambdas in Qualys. So Qualys platform offers Lambdas to extend the platform. And we'll have McAfee on stage explaining how they achieved the impossible with QFlow on container security. And I'd like to invite Niharika here.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Hope you're having a great time here at the QSA. It has been two days, great sessions, great presentations. I got a lot of information about the products, and definitely impressed with ROC and the ETM. Right? So Abhishek already gave a great overview of the containers, how many companies are adopting containers these days, and the risks that comes with the containers. So it's definitely a necessity for us to secure them. So how? So today, like how Abhishek spoke about different capabilities the container security product provides us, and the idea of shifting left. I, as a customer, definitely want to be able to scan my containers, scan container images in the registry, and also be able to do it in the CI/CD pipeline and in runtime. So I love all of these capabilities, and I have a great product from Qualys, container security, and I also have custom needs internally. We want to automate. We have very specific needs on how we want to generate reports or also run scans. So how do I make these two fit together, right? How can I get best value from this product that I've purchased? So that's where I'm going to talk about today. I'll talk about how we are extending the container security platform using QFlows to drive automation for our custom needs. So before we get into the details, let me go ahead and introduce myself. I am Niharika Puthani. I work for McAfee. I've been with them for close to 5 years now, and I've spent my last 8+ years in the cybersecurity field with different expertise in compliance, risk, and also vulnerability management. So McAfee. This is the place where I work, and I'm sure most of you know McAfee. We've had a long history in providing antivirus solution to our customers. But before that, in the last 2 days, when I met with a few folks, everybody has asked me a question: does McAfee still exist? Right? That was very surprising for me. So I definitely agree that before 2022, we were a much larger company. We had enterprise part of the business and also consumer part of the business. But today, we are solely focused on consumer business. So we provide antivirus solutions with a long history there. And outside of that, we also have many other products like McAfee Total Production, VPN, mobile security, text scam detector, etc. So if you want to know more of our products, I'm definitely not the expert. Please reach out to our product team. So our vision is to provide online protection to our consumers. So moving ahead, let's talk into the details. So we are using container security module. Today I'll share 2 specific use cases where we are leveraging QFlow to make better customizations for us internally. So the first use case that I want to dive into is to scan custom list of images in our registry. So our DevOps team, they push a lot of images into the registry on a regular basis. At one time, they probably have a bulk load of 50 or 100 images that they push into the registry. So as a VM manager, I definitely want to scan them as and when they're pushing these into the registry, right? So container security has all of these abilities to scan. But some of the challenges that I did face when I was setting up these scans is, one, the images that were pushed into the registry by my DevOps teams had different image creation dates. So what does that mean? Like, how do I understand which were the latest ones when the image creation date is different for different container images? So I was not able to use that. Second was how it was very manual for me to enter the repo details into the container security UI, where if it's 50 images that I want to scan, do I really want to go into the 50 repos, enter them, and set up a scan? That's definitely not what I want to do. So this is where we have our solution, QFlow to the rescue. So how did we do that? We definitely we raised our concerns with the Qualys team, and Abhishek, great. The team, I've already spoken to them multiple times. They gave us an option to use QFlow, introduced us to it, and it was so easy to build it. It was just drag and drop, easy to build it, and today I can set up my scan just with one click of a button. I just have to hit Run QFlow. That is it, right? So that's great. It saves me a lot of time. I don't have to do the manual work. Another thing, benefit was out of this QFlow is I'm not a DevOps person. I don't write scripts. I usually, when I want APIs to run, I want the image to be I want the data to be used by the APIs and create custom workflows, I usually depend on my IT team or my DevOps team to help us with it. Today, just with QFlow, very easy, able to generate it just with one click, no dependencies. The second use case that I'm talking here is about how we want to create custom reports for our team, internal teams. I'm sure most of you have the same requests from your IT teams. Give me a report with these details, otherwise we cannot fix it as quick as possible. So we wanted to generate reports that fit our internal team's needs. One of the main requests was, OK, give me a report which has account number details and VPC details. That's easy. We will work with our teams to get it done. So the challenge here that I had is I was not able to find the account number and VPC context details in the container UI. So again, QFlow to the rescue. We were able to build the QFlow where it uses CSAM APIs to get the context details, like the account numbers and VPC numbers. And it automatically tags those containers on the background. I don't have to do a thing. It auto-runs. So every time a container is spin up, it tags it with the account number and the VPC number. So the benefits that I'm getting out of it, right? Saves time, again, for me, and I'm meeting my stakeholder needs. I just have to insert my query, click on Generate Report. I have my report for my internal stakeholders as they need. We do much more with QFlow with different needs. But these are the two specific ones that I wanted to share with all of you today. So what are the outcomes, right? Definitely reduce remediation time for our internal teams to start taking action. Second, we are able to meet our custom needs and also enrich the data in Qualys platform to whatever custom needs that we have. So what's next for McAfee? We want to continue to automate workflows internally for better actions or better remediations. We want to increase drive remediation speed. And lastly, have the same mindset, shift left. How do we want to continuously improve our container security posture? That is what we do today. That is all I have for today. Thank you so much. It was very nice to be here. Have a great time.
Thank you, Niharika. The last part is the exciting new feature piece with demos. I see I have 7+ minutes left, so we'll stop whenever people ask me to shut up, right? But we have the most impactful ones first. If you got anything from Niharika, people ask me, when are you getting dynamic tags? When are you getting RBAC? And these features take quarters for Qualys to build. But you as a customer now have the power to use QFlow and extend our platform. If you tag our assets, for McAfee, we made our APIs public. You don't have to wait for dynamic tags. You can do dynamic tagging using QFlow and using our APIs. And when you start tagging your assets in Qualys, you can drive custom reports, custom dashboards out of it. That's the power of QFlow platform. I was having dinner last night with Vijay, Delta Airlines. And if you're a Qualys customer, and if Qualys people pamper you, you'll get a free EASM report. And he had an EASM report in front of him. And I was like asking him, do you know what is behind that external attack surface? And he said, yeah, I would love to know what is behind these numbers. These numbers don't mean anything. I want to know what process is running. So we show that you have telnet exposure externally exposed. But anything could be running behind at port 23. It doesn't make it telnet. So unless you get an insider view of what asset is backing that external exposure, you're really blinded. So this demo will show you how we address that. So this is your EASM screen. You have 1.7K assets discovered by, it's a very easy to enable. If you have not seen an EASM report, by all means, go and ask for it. But when you do so, we'll show you your externally exposed assets. 30 of them are in cloud. The rest of them could be on-prem and externally exposed. These are 30 on cloud, the 4 clouds we monitor. If I click on that, you'll see the QQL, which shows which clouds they are on. I have a further filter on containers. So I can say, show me only the ones that are containerized. Again, the attacker does not care. For them, these are external exposures. What is sitting behind them are your apps. They're getting containerized, and you'll see more and more of containers going forward. So once I filter on containers, I'll see a reduced set. I can go further and map that external exposure into an internal asset. And once you do that, you can go and drill down. What is my risk posture? That external attack could be a reasonable one. It could be a real one. You don't know what it is and how to remediate it until you have mapped it to an internal asset, container ones. If you click on the asset itself, we'll take you to the container page. We can have all the risk findings there. And what you'll see is this happens to be a vulnerable asset, 930 TrueRisk score. QDS 95, 90 plus. These are really bad, looking for trouble assets that you need to absolutely remediate. So once you have understood why container security is central to managing risk, those that are externally visible, the next one is like the first thing. We call it toxic combinations or TrueRisk insights. When you have these are really asking for trouble. You have to remediate them before you begin your risk management practice. So you don't have to go through ESM to figure that out. We will bubble up all the toxic combinations as part of our TrueRisk insights. So again, you can come to our dashboard. It presents your whole risk view here. And you can go into our TrueRisk insights, which are toxic combinations. You need to take care of it right away. They don't need to exist. You're asking for trouble. Go fix them. So again, if you click on that, it takes you to a list of containers that match that toxic combination. What is the toxic combination? It is public exposure, privileges. So we are bringing in Total Cloud KIM context, that this container has a role to access your databases. It has a privileged entitlement. And finally, it's vulnerable. So we'll bring it together in a pictorial way. And if you click on the graph, you can see that this asset has some critical findings. It's vulnerable. It has access to S3. Again, it cannot get worse than this. Public exposure, vulnerable asset, access to S3. And you can open it up and look at, again, a poor score. This is for demo purposes. It may or may not be your case. But we are dramatizing it to see how bad it can get. And these are the TrueRisk insights that should not be in your environment. So the second step to having risk management is to clean it up, remove all the toxic combinations. Once you have done that, and you have taken care of risk, you still have to deal with the unknown, the 0-day, proactively be ready for that kind of malware. And like I said, we have a CDR product out there. What we are doing is combining the network telemetry of CDR. So CDR can detect malware, 0-day malware, without signatures, as they're traversing your network, even before they get to the endpoint. But now we can get to combine that network telemetry with endpoint context from container security. And when you mash it up, you can pinpoint a malware to exact asset that it is residing in. And that's my next demo. So we start with no badness, zero malware. We'll purposefully create a demo environment. We'll get into the we'll curl a malware into a container. So some of my demo is not updated. We were kubectl execing into that, so we could get into a specific container and then curl a malware from some malicious website. And we'll do 2 of them. So we are purposefully trying to download malware, and even that is traversing the network, we'll flag it. If you go back here, we identified 2 instances of malware. And they are on the same bank application asset. If you go in there, you can see that there's a malware tab. And again, this tab did not exist. This is what we're building. It's coming in our QA and dev environments. We'll come out with our 135 release coming shortly, right? So we are now showing an exact container, and these 2 malwares were found by our 0-day capable engine mapped to a container. If you drill down, we'll take you to an external website which will show that this is indeed malicious. So 4 out of 96 vendors have classified it as malicious. The ones that have not, because they're reacting to the 0-day kind of capability, right? But we can flag it without any signatures. The next part of risk management is improving your risk score. How do you create a baseline and keep improving it over time? So risk management is not a one-day activity. It's a continuous activity. And that is very special with containers. For Qualys in general, you have to create dashboards, you have to create some tags, and then get to this. For containers, we will continuously evaluate your TrueRisk for every cluster in your environment. So you can see that your overall score is high, And if you want to improve your trend over time, you want to take care of the most risky assets first. So we have a query saying that if true risk for a cluster is greater than 850, I want to know about them. This is unacceptable. And you can drill down from the highest risk first. So there are 3 of them. And we go into the clusters. And each cluster has a pre-calculated true risk score without you doing anything. So we are computing true risk for a Kubernetes cluster for all clusters that you have. You can, again, drill down to all the pods in the cluster, and we'll show a true risk for every pod. You can drill down to the most risky pod, and we'll show you the exact container that risk comes from. Again, you don't have to come through ASM or Insight. Even this can be filtered by pods that are externally visible. So we allow this filtering at multiple places. This is another place where you can filter by externally visible ones. If you click on that, you get the exact container, and now you can send to the exact person responsible for this container to remediate the problem. So that is how you can drill down on the highest assets in terms of managing your risk. So managing risk is great, but compliance is better. So many vendors do FIM, and they have a gap for containers. We are closing that gap using the same eBPF container runtime technology, and we'll soon have container tab in your FIM product. So it's the same FIM product you have known for workloads, and we are bringing containers to that mix. We have a profile for containers. If you go in, we are looking for system binaries, system config files that no one should be touching. In this case, it is going to be SSHD config. And we want to make sure the integrity is not tampered with. We'll, again, for demo purposes, specifically go into that container and try to change that. And again, tracking these things in a container is very tedious. We are in the Ubuntu pod, and we are making empty passwords possible by modifying the SSHD config. That's what this nifty command is doing, going inside a container. If you get back to our FIM module, again, this is not containers, it's a traditional FIM module with all the goodness that you're already aware of. Look at the incidents. There's an event there. If you go into the event, you can look at, and it'll say that SSHD config was modified a few seconds ago. Real-time threat management for compliance, for containers in your FIM module. The next one is about blind spots, right? So because we have total cloud integration, we can find all your EKS clusters, all your GKE clusters, all your OKE clusters, and tell you where you have blind spots. So what we are showing here is that there is some blind spot in your inventory that we have found. If you drill down on that, it will show that these 3 clusters are visible in the inventory, but they have no visibility. You don't have any assessment done for these clusters. If you clear the filter, you'll see all the clusters. And for the clusters you have visibility on, you have a risk score attached to it. You can say this cluster has this risk score. For the others, we have no assessment, and we'll nudge you towards installing a sensor. The last one is ServiceNow. And again, integration is very simple. We start with a null slate. We execute the integration, and it will suck in all the tickets into ServiceNow. You can get a dashboard out of it. You can go into the riskiest vulnerability. So the highest risk vulnerability, will drill down into that. And it will lead you to the containers that have that riskiest vulnerability. And then you can, again, you can't patch containers. We'll go to the images that have that vulnerability. You patch them, you rescan, tickets are automatically closed for you. So that's the kind of automated workflow we are creating in collaboration with ServiceNow. My time is up, so I'll let it run. So this is the container. We go into the thing, and then we look for the exact image that it is on, remediate it, rescan, ticket closed, job done. So ServiceNow is available in ServiceNow Marketplace in October, so go use it. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhishek and Niharika.